So please turn to your neighbor. Turn to your neighbor. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, oh neighbor. Neighbor, oh neighbor. What are you holding on? Neighbor, oh neighbor. What are you holding on? Guys, this is what we've been doing since the beginning when we started this journey together. First of all, we realized that any relationship starts with us and everything that we bring to the table. You know, you bring your baggages, your baggage, you bring everything, but you bring yourself to the table. And sometimes you're not even aware that this is with you, but it's still there. Then we realized that while we enter in this relationship, there is a connection that is made. And there is what we call self-awareness. Then we learn about each other. We grow. In the Christian life, we call that discipleship. You start the journey with God. First of all, you bring yourself. You start the journey with God. Then there is discipleship. And then there's a time when, you go through the wall. It's like, it's not the same thing. It is difficult. Sometimes you easily go through that wall. But sometimes even when you are on the other side, it's painful. It is difficult. So you go, you actually move on, but there is still pain. So this is where we are. We're on that side, but we're still looking back. So I believe that this was very important for us to see where we are in this conversation together. So you guys know that I come from a pretty unique family. I opened my baggage. You know quite a few things about my family. You know that my family is very special. And like any families, we had our fair share of drama. Let me tell you about my older brother. He's a chef, and man, this guy can cook. My mom does most of the cooking at home, but when he cooks, he's a professional. It smells good, it tastes good, it looks good. 5 stars. So when he started his first job in his 20s, he started in a brand new restaurant in Paris. So can you imagine working in a restaurant by the Champs-Élysées? Well, we don't say the Champs-Élysées, we say the Champs-Élysées. But this is where my brother was working. The dream job, brand new restaurant. And he's young, passionate. So he goes early. He does the cooking. And then he stays late at night. It's a brand new restaurant. It's not a fancy restaurant. So you don't have a lot of people working there. But he's pouring his heart and his soul in this restaurant. And then, I don't know, but one day something happened. And there was a big argument in the kitchen. My brother was fired on the spot. So he didn't take his stuff, he just left. He went home. And then he got home, he went in his room and he slammed the door. Bang! He went on his bed, trying to sleep and, just rest and cool off. Because sometimes, like you can be heated in the heat of the moment. But then, an hour later, I hear the door. Blam! And then I hear my mother saying, Teddy, 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 your brother left with a knife, a butcher knife. So my cousin and I, we actually left. We went in the car and we tried to find my brother. Thankfully, he did not have the chance to take the train to go to Paris. But he was so mad that he had a butcher knife. And I don't know what he wanted to do with that. But I can imagine that you don't need a butcher knife to go and talk to people. So watch this. When I was 18, I decided that as soon as I get a job, I'm leaving all this crazy behind. I'm leaving all of them. And I'm taking my independence. Because these family drama, I cannot deal with that no more. So, the first step, I met my girlfriend. By the way, you met my girlfriend. She's here, at camp meeting. And we started living together because I needed to get away from home as quick and as fast as possible. And I was not a Christian at the time. So, I didn't know anything about you got to get married and stuff. So I just needed to leave home as quick as possible. And then, because she was adventurous like me, we decided that we would go to Canada. So this country became, the place where I can be myself and breathe away from my family. So Canada became a refuge for me. Of course, from time to time, I did not leave all my family behind, So from time to time, my parents would actually come and visit, and my brothers and siblings. But there's an ocean in between. So you know what it means? There is space. Sometimes, your way of coping with life is what? To escape. So maybe you came to camp to escape your family. I'm telling you the truth. Maybe you decided to go to a school on the other side of the country, in Alberta, to escape your family. Maybe you said that I'm not going to go to, Dalhousie because it's too close to home. I'm going to go all the way to Vancouver, to Andrews, because I need some freedom. You see, the way that we that we choose things, sometimes is to avoid the pain. Because sometimes being around family members can be very painful. So I left and I came to Canada. I spent 10 years. And then I returned back to France. When I returned, I spent some time with my friends. I spent some time with family members. And I saw my best friend, my BFF, Michael. Michael is an amazing dude, my best friend. We grew up together. We did stuff, we did life together. You know, the good things, the not so good things, and all the crazies in between. You know, we did that together. So, spend time with him. Michael is born on June 8th. And I'm born on August 6th. So, you know, I'm 8'6", he's 6'8". You know? I just want you to know. You know? So we're twins from different parents. So it clicked, you know, since we were little. You know what? I was married the day of his birthday. So we're tight. We're close. When his parents moved to Guadeloupe, Michael stayed behind. And we were his family. But what did I do? I left. I did not call during 10 years. I needed space. I needed an ocean in between. And of course, it was, you know, before social media and all these things, you know. So it was very difficult to stay in contact in those days. When I came back to France and I spent some time with him, of course, I met his family, I met his wife, I met his kids, I met everybody, and like his family is so cute. But I remember sitting down with him, and Michael said, "Man, when I got married, you were not there. When my kids were born, you were not there. When my wife got cancer, my best friend was not there. You left me alone, man." And for the first time in my life, I saw my best friend crying. You know, when we talk about, you know, losses and about grief, usually you think about, you know, families and you think about people who are dead. You don't think about the loss of friendship. But the loss of friendship is real. Sometimes there are some people that you feel deeply for them. They've been part of your life, part of your journey. And then for whatever reason, one day, there's a drift. They're gone. They move to another country. They move to a different city. And then you feel the pain, the loss of the relationship. So please turn to your neighbor and say, "Neighbor, oh neighbor! Neighbor, oh neighbor! What are you holding on?" Neighbor, oh neighbor! What are you holding on? Man, there's a story in the Bible. It's Jesus, and Jesus is going to the cross. And you see, most of the time when we look at Jesus, we see Jesus as divine. And of course, Jesus is divine. But don't forget that Jesus had both nature. He is divine, but he's also human. That's the reason why we say that Jesus was tempted in everything, just like we were tempted in everything. So if Jesus is fully human, you see, all the emotions that you and I feel, Jesus potentially felt them. So here, imagine this. Jesus is fully divine, fully human. He knows the cross, that he's going to the cross. He knows that he's going to die. He knows that this is going to cost him a lot. It's going to cost him the relationship that he has with his dad, with his father, because he's going to bear the weight of sin on his shoulders. But watch this, Amara. It's going to cost him the relationship with his friends. He knows ahead of time that they're going to enter into a dark night, into a time of trouble. It's going to be hard, very difficult. So he's there. He goes to a place called the Garden of Gethsemane. You see, when it's hot, you need a place a shade, because trees, they provide you with a shade, something that is cool, that is nice. So Jesus goes to the garden, and people usually go to gardens to pray. So he goes to the Garden of Gethsemane, to pray. Because he knows that in order to go through what he's going to go through, he needs a community. He needs friendship. He needs people that are tight, people that he knows, people that's been with him, people who can understand him. The problem is that sometimes we're going through rough stuff, but we think that we got to carry everything alone. You don't want to bring people in your own journey. So you think that you're tall, you think that you're big, you think that you can carry everything yourself. When Jesus shows a different model. So this is what the Bible says in the book of Matthew chapter 26. And I'm going to read from verse 36. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go. I'm going to go over there and pray." And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and he began to be what? Sorrowful and deeply distressed. So watch this. Jesus is divine, and he's sorrowful, and he's distressed. And we want to keep everything. We don't want to show any emotions. And we feel that this is wrong. When the Son of God, Jesus, who came to this earth, felt compassionate. Sometimes he cried when he saw Lazarus dying. And now in this text, we're shown that Jesus was distressed and sorrowful. Guys, we are created with emotions. These emotions will rise, from time to time, depending on the situations. And Jesus, he knows that he's going to the cross. He brings with him 3 friends to pray with him. Do you have friends that can pray with you and for you? Do you have friends? Because I heard that, no, I don't need any friends. I've been hurt so bad that I would rather not have any friends, but do life alone. You can't do it alone. You need people with you. Jesus selected among the 12. He took 3. You don't need to bring everybody with you. You don't need to tell your business to everyone. Go, pick, and choose some people that you trust. Some people that can carry your burden with you. Some people that can pray for you. Some people that care about you. So he's there. And then he said to them, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me. Guys, death is a real thing. You know, I spoke about like the death of a relationship. You know, how this is painful. But of course, you know, like you have the death of an animal. You know, you have the death of, your dreams. So there are many deaths in life. Grief, however, is not just about death, but it's about distance. It's about being disconnected. It's about being disappointed. So when people let you down, or when you let someone down, people are hurt. And then they experience grief sometimes. When people dump you or you break up with someone, people may actually experience grief over the death of a relationship. When your parents divorce. And this is a real thing in our society, and even in the Seventh-day Adventist church. When, like me, you're a child, your dad is home, you see him every day, and one day you wake up, and your dad is no longer here in the house. Of course, mommy and daddy, they're talking, they're doing their things. But they don't tell you anything. And then one day, one of your parents is gone. Sometimes you see them from time to time. Sometimes you don't. You don't know what happened. You are experiencing grief when things like this happen to you. So watch this. All these things, they can trigger some emotions. They can trigger emotions like fear, anger, sadness, shock, and loneliness. So the way you answer to a breakup is really influenced by the way that you experience fear and rejection and being abandoned when you were, a child. So watch this. I shared with you the story when I was 18, and I experienced this. Actually, I was not 18. I was 20, 21, and I experienced this great, breakup with my girlfriend. I told you that while I was experiencing this breakup with my girlfriend, it was hard and it was painful. I was also relieving some of the things in the past. So sometimes you're hurt. And you're hurt because you are not only leaving the breakup of this relationship, but also things of the past. It's almost like a wound. And now it's opened once again. So this is what happens with some of the young people. They're there, they've been a breakup, but they're still thinking of the person. and they're obsessed. They can't think straight. They go to school, but still, the person is with them. And they feel sad and they're depressed. Especially if it's your first breakup. So you think that it's only with this relationship, but when this happens, you actually experience all the breakups that you had, in the past. All the disappointment. All the relationship failures. So watch this. The way that we deal with these things. Sometimes we blame ourselves. Sometimes we blame God. Do you remember the story? There's a story in the Bible when they say, who sinned? Is the person, the person who is sick, or his parents? So sometimes, it's easy to put the blame on ourselves, or sometimes we put the blame on other people. That's the way we cope with these things in life. Sometimes we just act as if there is nothing. As if, no, this person is going to come back. I remember being in a church and the daughter of the first elder, there was a death in their family. And her aunt actually passed away. And she was so hurt that she would come to church. But she would see her aunt in the church. She would see her at school. She would see her everywhere. She actually acted as if she was not dead at all. She would send text messages. She would call. Sometimes we act, and it's best for us to cope with the situation, to cope with the trauma, to cope with the pain, to deny that there is no loss, that the person is still there. I remember even doing a funeral, and an elder of my church, who knows very well, who's been teaching Seventh-day Adventist doctrines, while he's praying, he's saying, I know that my son is in heaven, and that he's looking down at us. So he's denying the truth because it's too painful. So when you cope with death, with grief, with the loss of a relationship, sometimes you blame yourself. Sometimes you actually deny that the thing actually, existed. Sometimes you spiritualize everything. I've heard that sometimes, like we say, well, God wanted this to happen. Everything works together for good for those who love the Lord. And sometimes we don't really know the reason why these things happened. We know that at the end, we know that God is in control of everything. But really, think about it, for a second. When there's a rape, can you tell, the person that? When there's abuse, can you tell the person that all things works together for good? When there's a terrible accident and somebody dies, and you come and you visit the person, all things work together for good for those who love the Lord? Don't worry, brothers, stop crying. We live in a world of sin. And unfortunately, there is pain. And we don't know everything. Sometimes it's distraction and it's fun because we want to forget. Me? I needed an ocean in between. I needed to go far. There was a time when it was, alcohol, girls. But guess what? If you are really grieving because of a breakup, and you bring somebody else's in this breakup, to make you feel okay. Usually the relationship never works because you need time. You need time to heal. And healing only comes with time. So cut yourself some slack. Take time. It's going to be okay. But take time. Grieve. Bring people with you. Some friends. If you look at the Bible, you see Job and his friends. They were good friends. Their theology was wrong. They didn't know what they were doing, but they were good friends. They came, and they sat there for 3 days. They didn't say a thing. Sometimes you just need to be in the presence of someone, of your friends. They don't have to say anything. They just need to be there. Because sometimes you don't want to be left alone. So if you know that one of your friends is going through a breakup, is going through, the divorce of his parents, or is going through a divorce, sometimes you just got to be there. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to tell him and pull a Bible verse. You don't need to tell him, oh, it was her fault or it was your fault. Just be there. Just support them. It's enough. So, Jesus is there. He knows that he's going to the cross. He knows that his friends will be experiencing grief, pain, loss. And what does he do? He prays. He prays and he actually say, God, I don't want this. It is painful. It is sorrowful. It's going to hurt. I do not want this. But may your will be done. So 2 things that we can learn from this. The first one, you can tell God that this is real. You can name the pain that you actually are living right now. Jesus did it. And if Jesus did it, we can do the same thing. But the second thing that Jesus is actually telling us, praying is actually releasing everything in the hand of God. I'm bothered when we talk about prayer and we said, well, I prayed, but God did not answer. Did you actually really pray? Because if prayer is communicating with God, you actually prayed. Prayer is not twisting the arm of God. Prayer is not actually making God like a Santa Claus, and then everything that you tell him to do, he's going to do. Prayer is just communicating with God. If my daughter asks me every day a bowl of gummy bear for breakfast, do you think that it will be responsible for me as a parent to give her a bowl of gummy bear every morning? So it's the same thing with God. Make no mistakes about it. Prayer is not requesting. You may request, just like, my kids ask me things from time to time. But really, prayer is communication. It's communicating with God. It's telling God what's happening, inviting God into your heart, inviting God into your heart. Oh, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. Tell God, I wish that he was here, that she was there, but Lord, not as I will, as you will. Lord, it is painful. We've moved to another place. I didn't want this to happen, but not as I will, as you will. God, I wish that I would still be working in that place, because sometimes your identity is so fused into a job. And I can talk for me as a pastor. I know that some pastors, they're really destroyed when they're no longer pastors, because their identity is fused into being a pastor. I am pastoring. But when this is taken, I'll still be a servant of God. I still preach, share the good news of salvation to people. But my identity is not fused into pastoring. My identity is that I'm a child of God. And pastoring and teaching and preaching are some gift that the Lord has given me. If you're a musician and one day, God forbid, but you can't play, what's going to happen if your identity is fused with being a musician, or you can't sing? So Jesus gives us a model to actually follow. He is tearing down. There's loss of life, loss of connection with the Father, love of his friends' support, but it doesn't run away. He does not numb himself. He does not lash out. He goes. He does not pretend that everything is okay. He does not fake his strength, but he shows that his real strength is in God, in his Father. Turn to your neighbor again and say, neighbor or neighbor. Neighbor or neighbor. What are you holding on? You really need to answer this question to yourself. Because as long as you're going to keep clinging to your past, keep clinging to a person, instead of saying, God, not as I wish, but as you wish, not as I will, but as you will, it's going to be painful. During COVID, we got a dog. This dog, Bachi. Oh, Bachi was amazing. I didn't want a dog, but then, we got him. And when he came to our life, it was amazing. I would go and I would prepare my sermons, and Bachi was there. He would come, and just lay down beside me. My kids would go to school because, we had social distancing, but, sometimes, they could go to school. So they would go to school, and Bachi would be there with me. In the morning, I would wake up, and I would go, and run. And Bachi, would go and run with me. And then during COVID, something odd and something strange, happened. 2 months after, you know, Bachi entered in our life, only 2 months later, we went outside, we came home, he started coughing. Obviously, we felt that something was not going too well. So we went to the vet. The vet gave him some medication. And then, we gave him the medication. He was so happy. He was jumping. He was, having a lot of fun. And then one day, I was upstairs doing something. My eldest, my daughter was downstairs. And she came with Bachi in her arm. You could see his eyes wide open. Bachi was dead. He died during COVID in the arms of my daughter. She went through the wall. She hit the wall. She was depressed. We tried everything that we could. We put him in the car. We drove to the vet. But she would not be resuscitated, but she died. It was hard for her. So we did a funeral. I don't know if you've ever done a funeral for a dog, if you've ever been to a funeral for a dog, but we did a funeral for our own dog. We prayed. I asked Jesus to go and strengthen, my daughter. She asked me a question. She said, Daddy, do you think that Bachi will be in heaven? And I said, I don't know, sweetie. I don't know. I read my Bible from cover to cover. I don't know. It would be nice to say, well, oh, sure, sweetie. Don't worry about it. Bachi will be in heaven. But honestly, I didn't know. But I said, God knows best. Folks, let me tell you something. When you journey through the wall, when you journey through grief, it's not easy. It is not, something that we rejoice. In fact, this topic is heavy tonight. I can feel it. Like it does not feel like, the other nights. But really, it's part of the journey of the Christian. And it's part of your own journey. There is growth outside of grief. But you got to bring Jesus with you. And that's what I want you to know tonight. The last thing that I want to share with you is that one day, Peter was grieving. He had messed up everything. He went back to fishing, went back to his own ways. He was there on the shore of Lake Galilee. And while he was grieving, Jesus came. Jesus helped him relieve all these moments that he had lived in the past. Jesus said 3 times, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Not for Peter to say, yes, I love you. But for Peter to relieve his pain and his past trauma so that they can move on together. The only way that you're going to move on is when you come to these moments that you look back and that you dig to see where your pain came from. And then you bring it to the cross. Because Jesus wants to walk with you. He wants to talk with you. And he wants to tell you that he's your friend and that you're not alone. So maybe today you're saying, well, I never had a boyfriend. I never had a girlfriend. I don't care about breaking up. This is not part of my reality. Let me tell you that one day you're going to experience the loss of a relationship. Might be a mother, might be a father, might be a cousin, might be a dog, might be a friend. Might be people moving away, people ghosting you. Pain is real. It's part of the human experience. But what a friend you have in Jesus. Jesus will never leave you nor forsake you. He will join you in the midst of your pain. He will help you remember, but he will not leave you there. So my friends, hold on. Hold on to Jesus. I ask you, what are you holding on? Well, it's time to tell your neighbor or neighbor, I'm holding on to Jesus. Neighbor or neighbor, I'm holding on to my Savior. Neighbor or neighbor, we are not alone. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord fill you with many blessings.